welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're opening up the files on one of history's, well, truly one of its most defining figures, Ottaviano Augusto.
Right, who we usually know as Gaius Octavius.
Exactly. The man who reigned for over 40 years, from 63 BC to 14 AD, and just completely engineered Rome's ultimate political transformation.
It's an incredible stretch of power. And he didn't just, succeed Julius Caesar. He totally re-architected Rome.
Took it from a republic.
A fragile, brutal republic drowning in civil war, and turned it into this centralized, monumental empire that we're still talking about today.
And that transition is really the key, isn't it? From this ruthless young avenger to the serene, undisputed ruler.
That's our focus. We're looking past the battles today. We're analyzing him not as a general, but as a master strategist.
A strategist of administration, of infrastructure, and I think this is fascinating, of political branding.
Precisely. We're sort of using him as a template. If this genius of organization were in charge today, what would he build?
What tech would he use?
What data systems would he deploy to project that ultimate power?
So our mission is to uncover those key insights, into his mastery, the Pax Romana he created, and these surprisingly modern parallels between his ancient government and concepts like cloud computing.
Big data, even.
Okay, let's unpack this.
To really get Augustus, you have to start with the chaos he inherited. He was basically a teenager when Caesar named him as his heir.
Which means he was thrown right into this maelstrom of violence and political vendettas.
Absolutely. And his first move wasn't about negotiation.
No, it was pure, cold strategy. It was about vengeance.
It was. He needed legitimacy fast. And he got it by forming the second triumvirate with Mark Antony and Lepidus.
A temporary alliance.
A very temporary alliance with one single-minded goal: hunt down and punish Caesar's assassins. Systematically.
It was a bloody way to start, but it seems like it was a necessary step.
Oh, completely. He had to consolidate the loyalty of Caesar's legions, establish his own justification for being there. Once that vengeance was done at battles like Philippi.
That's 42 BC.
Right. After that, the triumvirate was basically a ticking clock. Everyone knew it wouldn't last.
And the sources really emphasize that the real turning point wasn't Philippi, but the Battle of Actium. That was a decade later, 31 BC.
Yes. And that victory over Antony and Cleopatra, it wasn't just another military win. It was the final move.
The elimination of all rivals.
He removed the last possible challenge to his authority in the entire Mediterranean.
So when he returns to Rome, he has, essentially total military control.
He does. But here's the masterstroke. This is the genius of the man. He doesn't declare himself king. He doesn't make himself dictator.
He does this elaborate political dance.
He goes back to the Senate, and he seemingly restores the Republic, only to emerge in 27 BC with this new, almost sacred title, Augustus.
And that title, it just changed everything. Venerable, majestic. It instantly set him apart from all the warring generals who came before.
It's the moment the Republic quietly dies.
And the Imperial era officially begins. He solidifies his power not through conquest, but through a kind of constitutional acceptance.
And that leads us right to his lasting fame. Because once the fighting was done, he pivoted completely.
From the battlefield to the bureaucracy.
He shifted from being a commander to being the ultimate political architect.
Oh.
That's where his real success lies.
Which brings us to the Pax Romana. We all hear that term, but what did it actually mean for, say, a merchant in Spain or a farmer in Egypt?
The Roman peace, the Pax Romana, it was so much more than just the absence of war. It was a whole system of stability.
A standardized system.
Yes, it meant safe trade routes. It meant goods could flow reliably across the entire Mediterranean. It meant standardized currency, standard laws.
It just made everything simpler.
It made commerce possible on a scale never seen before. That stability was the engine for everything Rome achieved for the next 2 centuries.
And that kind of stability, it must have demanded a massive administrative overhaul. This is where we get to him being a maniacal administrator.
He was obsessed with creating systems that would last long after he was gone.
Things like the vigils.
The vigils, yeah. The first organized firefighting and police force in Rome. He created permanent military cohorts just to maintain public order. He standardized the roads.
Which weren't just for legions, right?
No, they were for trade, for communication, for administration. His whole building program was administrative at its core, not just for show.
And this brings us to that famous quote, the one from Suetonius.
Oh, absolutely. I found a city of bricks.
I return it a city of marble. It says everything about his project. He wasn't just redecorating.
Now, these projects were political statements. You look at the Forum of Augustus or the original Pantheon, these weren't just beautiful buildings,
Like
they were proof.
tangible proof of Roman power and the promise of a future under his rule. He was rebranding the entire state.
And the rebranding went beyond just stone. He was also curating the culture.
Yes, very actively. He supported poets like Virgil and Horace.
He knew that a story, an epic poem, could outlast a marble temple. He did. He sponsored literature that celebrated traditional Roman values and, well, painted his own reign as a new golden age. He was ensuring his version of the story was the one that survived.
Okay, so let's move from the physical empire of marble to the data empire, because this is where the sources get really fascinating.
This is the core insight. His real power wasn't just in the might of his legions, it was in the efficiency of his information.
The speed of information.
Exactly. He's running a territory of millions of square miles. He's thousands of miles from the frontiers, the limes.
A logistical nightmare.
Immense. Deploying troops is one thing, but deploying information quickly, that's the difference between order and total chaos.
And his solution, the innovation that really underpinned everything, was the Cursus Publicus.
The first formalized imperial postal and intelligence service.
So what did that actually look like?
It was a network of relay stations with standardized vehicles, all designed for one thing: speed. It ensured a message could get from the German frontier back to Rome in days, not months.
And this wasn't for public use.
No, not at all. This was for governance. It was the central nervous system of the entire empire.
So that was his priority then. Speed of communication. What would he pioneer today? He wouldn't care about a private jet.
No, not a bit. He'd care about data velocity. The modern version of the Cursus Publicus isn't a highway. It's fiber optic networks.
Or low Earth orbit satellites, like Starlink.
Exactly. Or, and I think this is crucial, he would build a centralized, totally redundant cloud computing platform to manage every single part of his administration.
The cloud analogy is perfect. I mean, when you think about the amount of information he was collecting, Augustus would have been the world's first big data CEO.
He was collecting massive amounts of data in near real time. He ran regular censuses population, property across the entire empire, an unbelievable organizational feat for the time.
But wait a minute, isn't centralizing all that data just incredibly vulnerable? If your central cloud goes down or an enemy intercepts the postal route, doesn't the whole thing collapse?
That's a great question. And he managed it through redundancy and security. The network was run exclusively by Imperial agents, often loyal military veterans. Stations were fortified.
Okay.
But more importantly, the goal wasn't perfect security. It was speed and consistency. The sheer volume of reports coming in meant he always had a better, more current picture of the empire than any rebellious governor could ever hope to have.
So his goal was optimization.
Total optimization. Optimizing tax collection to keep the treasury full, and optimizing grain distribution to keep Rome fed.
Which prevented riots and kept the political situation calm.
And you can draw a straight line from his monitoring of grain shipments via postal stations to how modern governments monitor economic flows using centralized servers and predictive analytics.
For Augustus, control was all about administrative certainty.
Always.
Let's shift gears a bit to the man's personal brand. He clearly understood that image is power.
Oh, he didn't just manage the empire. He meticulously managed his own appearance. This is where we get into psychological warfare.
Oh.
A leader back then needed a physical manifestation of power, something that inspired awe and maybe a little bit of fear. It wasn't about being subtle. It was about projecting absolute might.
And our sources suggest a modern equivalent for his, say, state vehicle would be something like the Tesla Cybertruck.
Or a heavily customized Rivian, yeah. And you have to ask, why that over a traditional luxury car?
Because it's brutal. It's unapologetic.
It speaks the same language as a gleaming gold breastplate. It's not about comfort. It's about projecting an image of the future that is totally immune to attack. That bulletproof design would appeal directly to Augustus's need to look indestructible.
Well, hold on. If he's this maniacal administrator who's obsessed with optimization and efficiency, wouldn't he logically pick a quiet, super efficient vehicle for traveling, not some heavy status symbol?
He would choose the efficient one for his administrators, for the guys running the Cursus Publicus.
So not for himself.
Not for his public appearances, no. For those, the psychological impact is the primary goal. When the people see their leader, they have to see the state's unassailable power made real. It's calculated branding.
And beyond that image, he also tried to regulate the social fabric of Rome itself with his moral reforms, the mos
The
maiorum.
most yes, the customs of the ancestors. He introduced incredibly strict laws against adultery. He used state power to favor marriage and having children.
He saw a decline in what he considered traditional family values as a threat to the state.
A threat to stability, yes. And he used his centralized power to try and reverse it.
And then the ultimate act of legacy control, the thing that ties all this together, the res gestae.
De res gestae divi Augusti. It's his political last will and testament, an autobiography detailing all of his achievements.
But it's not just a book.
No, it's a piece of masterful propaganda. He ordered it to be posted all across the empire, literally carved in stone. He made sure that the story we're discussing today is the one he designed for us to remember.
It's the final, authoritative word on his own power.
Absolutely.
So when you pull back and look at these three sides of him, the avenger, the architect, and the master data administrator, you realize he was playing a completely different game than his rivals.
That's the big connection for you to take away from this. For any leader, then or now, their choice of technology is always secondary to their strategic need.
And for Augustus, that need was control.
Absolute control and stability. And that meant having better information faster than anyone else.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to chew on.
Mm-hmm.
If a modern leader controls the military, the law, and also the cloud that manages the economy and their own global image, and if that leader decides to invoke the mos maiorum
To restore the customs of the nation.
using those all-seeing data tools,
What accountability does that kind of power demand? What responsibility comes with that level of real-time control over the narrative and the daily lives of every citizen, all in the name of stability?
it definitely changes how you look at centralized data systems.
Yeah.
It really makes you appreciate that history often rhymes, just with different technology. Thank you for joining us on this curious and interesting deep dive.
And we do invite you to follow our channel so you don't miss any of our next deep dives.
And since the season demands it, to all of you listening out there,
Buon Natale.
Buon Natale.